Hello, we are back. We are back to do a little more reading in the book club. Be holy, for I am holy. And we are reading right now the complete visions of Anne Catherine Emmerich. And we are at a little section now that she's describing some children of Nimrod, right? Right, Hen?
That's
Nimrod's
correct.
children, which one of them we learned about yesterday, which is Derketo, which it was a female Derketo, but she was not very good. And today, I'm sorry to say, is the sister, which I don't think she's going to be any better, but we need to know this because we
Yeah.
need to know everything that Blessed Anne Catherine saw in her visions.
Yeah.
So let's get started.
Okay.
Semiramis. The mother of Semiramis was born in the region of Nineveh, outwardly demure. In secret, she was cruel and desolate. The father of Semiramis was a native of Syria, and like her mother, sunk in the most detestable idolatry. He was put to death after the child's birth, his murder being in some way connected with or in consequence of their divinations. Semiramis was born far away at Ascalon in Palestine, and then taken by pagan priests to some shepherds in a wilderness. She spent much of her time during her childhood alone on a mountain. I saw her mother and the pagan priests turning aside when on their hunting expeditions to visit her. I saw too the devil under various forms playing with her, like John in the desert going around with angels. I saw near her birds of brilliant plumage. They brought her all kinds of curious toys. I do not remember all that went on connected with her, but it was the most horrible idolatry. She was beautiful, full of intelligence and seductive arts, and everything succeeded with her. In obedience to certain divinations, she became the wife of one of the chief shepherds of the king of Babylon, and later on she married the king himself. This king had conquered a nation far to the north and had dragged a part of them to his own country as slaves. Some time after, when Semiramis reigned alone, many of them were oppressed by her and forced to labor at her extravagant buildings. Semiramis was looked upon as a goddess by her nation. The hunting expeditions carried on by Semiramis' mother were wilder than those which she herself conducted. She, the mother, went about with a little army mounted on camels, stripped asses and horses, striped asses and horses. Once I saw them in Arabia toward the Red Sea, on a great hunt at the time when Job dwelt in his city there. The huntresses were very dexterous, and they sat on horseback like men. They were fully clothed to the knee, below which the limbs were laced with straps. On the feet they wore soles with two high heels, upon which were colored figures. They wore short, closely fitted jackets made of fine feathers of most diverse hues and patterns. Crossed over the arms and breast were straps trimmed with feathers. The shoulders were covered with a cape, likewise of feathers, and set with glittering stones and pearls. On the head they wore a kind of hat of red silk or wool. Over the face fell a veil in two halves, either of which could be used as a protection from wind and dust. A short mantle completed their costume. Their hunting weapons considered of spears, bows, and arrows. At their side hung a shield. The savage animals had multiplied astonishingly. The hunters drove them together from all parts of immense districts and slew them. They also dug pits and covered them as snares. When the beasts fell into them, they were soon dispatched with hatchets and clubs. I saw the mother of Semiramis hunting the animals described by Job under the name of Behemoth, also tigers, lions, etc. I saw no monkeys in those early times. I saw similar hunts upon the water, upon which idolatry and numerous abominations were generally practiced. The mother was outwardly not so dissolute as Semiramis, but she possessed a diabolical nature with amazing strength and temerity. What a frightful thing to plunge into the sea in her struggle with that mighty monster. Mounted on a dromedary, she pursued the animal until dromedary and rider plunged into the waves. She was honored as the goddess of the chase and a benefactress to mankind. Semiramis, returning home from Africa after one of her hunting or military expeditions, went to Egypt. His kingdom had been founded by Mesraim, the grandson of Cham, who at his coming had found there already several scattered tribes of degenerate neighboring races. Egypt was peopled by several races and ruled sometimes by one, sometimes by another. When Semiramis went to Egypt, four cities were in existence. I'm sorry. Let me read that again. When Semiramis went to Egypt, four cities were in existence. The oldest was Thebes, where a lighter, a more slender and agile race lived than in the city of Memphis, whose inhabitants were short and thick-set. It lay upon the left bank of the Nile, over which was a long bridge. On the right bank was the place where, in Moses' time, Pharaoh's daughter lived. The darker inhabitants with woolly hair were even in those first ages slaves, and they had never ruled in Egypt. They that first went thither and built Thebes came, I think, from Africa, and others from over the Red Sea, and from where the Israelites entered. A third city was called Chum, later Heliopolis. It lies toward the north below Thebes. When Mary and Joseph fled to Egypt with Jesus, I saw extraordinarily large buildings still around this city. Lower down than Memphis, not very far from the sea, lay the city of Sais. I think it is still there. A hippopotamus older than Memphis. Each of these four cities had its own king. Semiramis was very high honored in Egypt, where by her intrigues and diabolical arts she greatly contributed to the spread of idolatry. I saw her in Memphis, where human sacrifices were common, plotting and practicing magic and astrology. I did not at this period see the bull Apis, but I saw idols with tails and a head like the sun. 10.
It was, I like your way. Say it again. Semiramis. How do you say it?
Semiramis.
Semiramis. I like your pronunciation. It was Semiramis who here planned the first pyramid. It was built on the eastern bank of the Nile, not far from Memphis. The whole nation had to assist at its construction. When it was completed, I saw Semiramis again journeying thither with about 200 followers. It was for the consecration of the building. Semiramis was honored. Semiramis was honored almost as a divinity. The pyramid happened to be constructed on marshy ground. Consequently, a foundation of stupendous pillars was built for it. It was like an immense broad bridge. The pyramid was raised upon it. One could go around under it, as if into an immense temple formed of columns. It was divided off into innumerable rooms, dungeons, and spacious halls. The pyramid itself, up to the very summit, also contained numerous apartments, large and small, with openings like windows from which I saw flags of cloth hanging and waving. All around and pyramid were baths and gardens. This building was the real center of Egyptian idolatry, astrology, witchcraft, and abominable impurity. Here, children and the aged were offered in sacrifice. Astrologers and necromancers dwelt in the pyramid, and there had their diabolical visions. Near the baths was immense machinery for purifying and muddying waters of the Nile. The baths witnessed the most infamous horrors of idol worship. I saw later on Egypt women practicing the greatest abominations in them. This pyramid did not last long. Hold on, this pyramid did not last long on. I saw later on Egyptian women practicing the great abominations in them. This pyramid did not long exist. It was destroyed. The nation was frightfully superstitious. The pagan priests were in darkness so great and so given to divination that in Heliopolis, even the dreams of the people were collected, recorded, and referred to the stars. Numerous mesmerists arose who, in their diabolical visions, confounded truth with falsehood. According to their vision, idolatry was formulated and even the cycles of time computed. I saw that the idols Isis and Osra, I forget how to say this, Osiris, were no other than Joseph and Aneth, whose coming into Egypt the astrologers foresaw in their demoniacal visions. They consequently incorporated them into their religion. When they did come, they were honored as divinities. I saw that Asnath wept over such impiety and wrote against it. The scholars of the present day who write about Egypt are in gross error. They accept so many things concerning the Egyptians as history, science, and learning, which nevertheless have no other foundation than astrology and false visions. That any nation could remain as stupid and beastly as the Egyptians is a proof of it. But these savants reject such demoniacal inspirations and practices as possible. They esteem the Egyptians more ancient than they really are, because in those early times they appear to have possessed such knowledge as abstruse and hidden things. But I saw that even in the coming of, say it again, Semiramis to Memphis, these people in their pride had designedly confused their calendar. Their ambition was to take precedence of all other nations in point of time. With this end in view, they drew up a number of complicated calendars and royal genealogical tables, but this and frequent changes in their computations, order and true chronology were lost. This confusion might be firmly established, they perpetuated every error by inscriptions and the erection of great buildings. For a long time, they reckoned the ages of father and son as if the date of former's demise were that of the latter's birth. The kings who waged constant war with the priests on the subject of chronology inserted among their forefathers the names of persons that never existed. Thus, the four kings of the same name who reigned simultaneously in Thebes, Heliopolis, Memphis, and Sais were, in accordance with this design, reckoned one after the other. I saw too that once they reckoned 970 days to a year, and again years were computed as months. I saw a pagan priest drawing up a chronological table in which for every 500 years, 1100 were set down. I saw these false computations of the pagan priests at the same time that I beheld Jesus' teaching on the Sabbath in Aruma. Jesus, speaking before the Pharisees of the call of Abraham and his sojourn in Egypt, exposed the errors of the Egyptian calendar. He told them that the world had now existed 4,028 years. When I heard Jesus say this, he was himself 31 years old. I saw in those times also a people who honored Seth as God. They made distant and perilous journeys into Arabia, where they were supposed his grave to be. It seems to me that the descendants of this people were still in existence and that the Turks suffer them to pass freely through their territory on their pilgrimages to that grave. So it looks like, I think that's the end. Yeah, because now we go to Melchizedek, which we know him.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank you. I do not like these readings at all, but I guess we need to know because I'm sure that in the future we're going to hear the names again. So
it gives you foundation.
Yeah.
And foundation is boring to lay, but it's like the most important thing of the story is, So did you get anything out of it? Do you feel like you got anything out of it?
Well, what I got out of it is that apparently she was very evil, and she even became wife of the Babylonian king.
Mm-hmm.
And these evil people, they just kept growing and growing and getting more followers, which is really sad,
Yes. That's what I was thinking about when she married the king. I'm like, oh, these evil people, they all stick together. It's the way it is today in our political.
And then there were also slaves in that time.
Slaves.
And this was in Egypt, right?
Yep. Well, Babylon. I mean, where did we say it was? Iraq, I think?
I thought it was Egypt.
Let's look.
Egypt?
Oh, what? Maybe it was. You might be right. Let me look.
It says, Babylon. Speaking before the Pharisees of the call of Abraham and his sojourn in Egypt, exposed the errors of the Egyptian calendar. So yeah, it was errors from the Egyptian calendar, I guess, that they.
Let me just put Egypt to see if it says that. For some reason, I had in my mind Babylon lay northeast of Memphis on the east bank of the Nile, and near the canal the canal of Pharaohs, connecting the Nile to the Red Sea. It was a boundary between Lower and Middle Egypt, where the river craft paid tolls when ascending or descending the Nile. You're right. I don't know why I was thinking Iraq. What did we just read and we found out?
No, because they said something about that the mother, I think, married a Palestine person or something.
But no, but remember we looked at something and it said it was actually located in Iraq. I forget what we were
Huh.
reading. I can't remember what
I
we were
don't
reading.
know.
Maybe it had something to do with the consecration. Anyway, so yeah, I thought the same thing about the king. They all stick together, and our
Yeah.
mother was so evil, and they brought idolatry into the thing. So it was, it was it
I
was
can't wait now to start reading Melchizedek.
yeah,
That's going to be so much better, so much more
yeah,
pleasant.
yeah,
And
and
Melchizedek is kind of long.
yeah,
Ooh,
but as we read through this, like, look, we remember that you remember that it was in Egypt, and they talked about the Red Sea, and here they talked about the Red Sea. So it's good that it's helping us set a foundation of places too, because in my mind it was Iraq. I'm glad we checked, because it helps
because
me to
because
stay
I guess now Moses might come into the picture,
right.
and
So
he's from all that.
right,
So
right,
that was all bad stuff, and he's
right.
been in that world, but yet he turns to God, which and then there it's gonna get better. I
What
hope.
did
I
you
don't know. I didn't
Yeah.
read it.
What did you think of these costume things? I thought you might like this part. They wore the
Oh
short,
yeah,
close-fitting jackets with fine feathers and hues and
yeah.
patterns and
You
red
can like
silk
picture
hat.
it.
Yeah. And then the face fell a veil in two halves. Like, so that means the veil was one half and two halves. And then glittering stones and pearls. I don't
What I
know.
couldn't what I couldn't really picture were the shoes because they said that it was just a sole with
Yeah.
ties, like ties
Yeah.
going up, I guess. But then it said it had a heel, and on the heel something was drawn, and I'm thinking, oh,
What
I
would
wonder what
that
that
be?
looked like.
Yeah. I knew you were thinking about the clothing. And then here it was talking about a short mantle completed their costume. Their hunting weapons consisted of spears, both. So and then that hung a shield. And I just thought that was really interesting, that part.
Yeah.
But and then she says, I saw no monkeys in those early times.
Yeah, she says there were no monkeys.
Yeah, and I wonder why she mentioned that. Like, I saw no monkeys. Like, why mention what you didn't see?
I know, right?
I was like, what was that?
Because maybe she saw
So
all kinds of animals, but she didn't see the monkeys. Didn't the monkeys come later, according to
that that you would know
Planet of
better
the
than I.
Apes, which was
Oh
science
well,
fiction? I know,
I
I
don't
know, I
know.
know, I know, I know, I know. I'm
I
just
don't
being
know.
funny. I know, I'm just being funny.
I don't know
Anyway,
nothing about that. But anyway, um, but it just was that those are really the things that stood out to me.
I'm just glad it's over. I'm ready to go on to
Yeah.
Melchizedek.
Yeah, and also the fact that these evil people are so connected to idolatry, astrology, witchcraft. There's some of that today, you know. There's some of that today, and it just confirms that we cannot um you have to stay away from that stuff. And it's very alluring.
I'm
And
very I'm very intrigued at Melchizedek because he was the very first and perfect priest. But yet
yes,
there's no record of him. If he was born or
yes,
died or if he was, I don't know, an angel. We just don't there's no record of
yes.
Melchizedek really. So I'm really
Also,
curious on what she sees.
yeah, but don't you like the way at the end she always ties it somehow to Jesus? But did she say that the world is only 4,028 years? That's not correct. So that
Is that what
makes
she
me,
said?
yeah, you see here it says he told them that the world had now existed. Wait a minute. He told them, I saw
He said it. Remember, she said the
false
calendar was wrong.
computations. Wait
Yeah.
a minute. No, no, no. But Jesus speaking to the Pharisees, and he told them, so Jesus told them that the world had now existed 4,000 years. When I heard Jesus say this, yeah, so she said that Jesus said that. That I don't believe is correct.
I don't know.
So
I don't know what is correct, so I don't know what to say.
we don't. No, we don't. But we do know that they carbon date things back millions of years. But maybe this is what I thought. Maybe it's just that people have been on the earth for 4,000 years. So that's what I thought might be. See, we never know with this stuff. It's not absolute with the way people came into existence. We really don't know when people came into existence. Although I have heard 15,000 years ago, come to think of it, when I do the DNA. So, but I like the way she puts Jesus toward the end. Look, it's on the very last page.
Good, because I needed
And
to
then,
hear something holy.
yeah, and then
This is supposed to
boom.
be a holy book club.
But you know, the Old Testament, we have to, the negative highlights the old. What did our teacher,
I know.
what did our teacher say in class? Yes, not yesterday, was it the day before?
The Catechism of the Catholic Church says the New Testament lies hidden in the Old, and the Old Testament is unveiled in the New.
So we have to
Yeah.
we have to look at see, to me, I remember hearing one of the priests say that the evil highlights the good too, and we need it mixed in to bring it out, and God uses all the evil for good.
Another thing that stood out to me was Nineveh.
Right, you said that
This like happened. It looks like it started in Nineveh. I read somewhere in the beginning part.
Hmm?
Yeah, it says the mother of Semiramis was born in the region of Nineveh, and that's where Jonah goes.
I'm sorry if my camera's moving. It's because when I'm tired, I get restless.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Well, you go rest.
Yeah. So when you're, when you're tired, that's when your restless leg syndrome will pop up if you notice. So,
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, okay. So I think it was good and it was nice and short. I like it short like this because it helps us like mull over it a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to Melchizedek too.
Oh, me too. Me too.
So, all right,
Bye.
guys.
Have a good night, guys.
Yes, you too. Bye.